On November 5th, Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board will decide whether Tremane Wood, a man sentenced to death for a murder his brother confessed to, should live or die. Over 20 years ago, Tremane was convicted under Oklahoma's felony murder law. Now, with evidence of ineffective counsel, prosecutorial and judicial misconduct, and a clemency system many say is broken, a growing number of voices are asking, should Tremane Wood be executed? I'm Dion Osborne, and this is In Depth with Dion. In 2002, Tremane Wood, his older brother Jake, and two women, Brandy Warden and Lanita Bateman, were involved in a robbery attempt in an Oklahoma City hotel. When it went wrong, one man, Roddy Biff, ended up dead from a stab wound. Prosecutors tried Tremane first. He was sentenced to death. His brother Jake testified in court that he was the killer, not Tremane. But Jake's confession didn't stop the state from putting Tremane on death row. Jake, in a separate trial, was sentenced to life without parole. Despite his brother's confession, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals refused to give Tremane a new trial, and in 2019, his brother Jake died by suicide while imprisoned. Now, his family, defense team, Oklahoma faith leaders, and thousands are hoping the state spares Tremane's life. Amanda Vass is a federal public defender representing Tremane Wood. She says what happened in this case goes beyond tragic. She says it's unconstitutional. Ahead of the clemency hearing, her team filed a petition to the U.S. Supreme Court.
We have argued that the prosecutorial misconduct in Tremane's death penalty case started not only back in 2002 when he was first prosecuted and persisted at his 2004 death penalty trial, but have persisted up to as recently as last week.
At trial, Tremane's lawyer, Johnny Albert, failed to present key evidence or witnesses. He billed just 2 hours on the case. Later, he admitted under oath that he was battling addiction at the time and that Tremane did not receive an adequate defense.
The problem was that at the time he was representing Tremane and two other capital defendants in Oklahoma County, he had hit rock bottom in his life. He was drinking on a regular basis. He was abusing substances, and he wasn't working up his death penalty cases the way that the Constitution and the American Bar Association guidelines that you mentioned require them to be worked up.
Oklahoma's felony murder law allows anyone involved in a crime that leads to a death to be held equally responsible, even if they didn't commit the act. But critics say this law leads to unjust sentences and disproportionately affects black men. A 2017 study by the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology found that prosecutors in Oklahoma were far more likely to seek the death penalty when the victim was white. That same year, a report from the Oklahoma Death Penalty Review Commission found that between 1976 and 2014, 53% of Oklahoma death sentences were either reversed or reduced. The data shows the system fails more often than it gets it right. For Tremane's mother, Linda Wood, the stakes aren't legal, they're deeply personal.
Tremane was a kid who was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. And of the four people that were involved in this crime, he was the least culpable. And that Tremane doesn't deserve to die. I mean, that's the short and simple message right there. He just doesn't deserve to die.
Sam Heath with Equal Justice USA says the death penalty punishes but doesn't heal.
It's very easy on the front end in conversations to show we know the death penalty is racist. We know that it's expensive. We know that it's torture. We know that it doesn't bring about healing. We know that it's arbitrary. We can show all of those things. What we can't fully debate is whether or not it punishes, because we know it does, but we can debate whether or not it should. And so those great questions that get into philosophical, moral, and for Christians, a theological discussion get around what do we think punishment accomplishes? And if we want punishment to accomplish just the pain delivery by intention that it does that. But if we think that punishment heals, we know that it doesn't.
Even one of the surviving victims of the 2002 robbery has spoken out. Arnold Kleinsasser told the Huffington Post he doesn't want to see the state of Oklahoma kill Tremane. Being a Christian, I would be totally against it. I look at it from a perspective of how much I've been forgiven from God, and that's the same forgiveness I'm called to extend to Tremane. Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond, who's running for governor, has a different view. Despite Tremane's brother's confession and one of the defendants now out of prison, he's urging the parole board to deny clemency and pursue lethal injection for Tremane Wood. He also says Wood remains a danger to society. Wood's actions on death row in recent years, including distributing drugs and having another inmate viciously beaten, prove that death is the only way to ensure the safety of Oklahomans. But Amanda Bass says those allegations were part of secret ex parte communications between Drummond's office and Judge Gary Lumpkin, while Tremane's legal fate was still being decided.
While the court was considering our request for Tremane to receive a new trial, the Attorney General's email allegations against Tremane behind our backs had the effect of telling the judge, you don't need to worry about this guy's death sentence or new trial request. The system got it right because look at all of the bad things he's supposedly doing in prison. So it prejudiced the court's attitude towards Tremane's claims that he deserves a new trial, and it prejudiced the court against Tremane's claims that his death sentence is fundamentally flawed.
Amanda Bass and her team have asked the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene. They allege prosecutorial misconduct, withholding of evidence, misleading the jury, and secret judicial interference.
We argued that that evidence shows textbook violations of the Supreme Court's decisions in Brady versus Maryland and Napoo versus Illinois, which prohibit prosecutors from lying and cheating in order to win convictions and death sentences. And then finally, we also argued that the ex parte communications between Attorney General Drummond and presiding Court of Criminal Appeals Judge Lumpkin violated Tremane's due process rights in yet another way by prejudicing the process by which the Court of Criminal Appeals arrived at a decision denying him relief and rubber stamping his execution.
Just last year, Drummond fought to save another death row inmate, Richard Glossop, citing prosecutorial misconduct. Both men were prosecuted by the same DA's office, both in 2004. Glossop is white, Tremane is black.
And I think it's also in his calculation, maybe popular for him to be supporting the death penalty and touting his death penalty credentials to the constituents whose votes he perceives he will need to win the governor's race. I think it also is striking that Richard Glossop is white and Tremane is black, and so there is that quite obvious disparate treatment in the Attorney General's conduct when it comes to the exact same prosecutorial misconduct issue.
On November 5th, Tremane's future will be in the hands of Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board. If denied, his execution is scheduled for November 13th.
My hope for November 5th is that the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board will see the Attorney General's tactics precisely for what they are, which is as a distraction from the powerful case for mercy that Tremane has and that we hope they will meaningfully consider. We hope that they will also see Tremane's life as one that's worth saving. We'll see him as someone who, like all of us, are deeply flawed and who have made mistakes, but as someone who is nevertheless capable of and willing to do the work to live a meaningful, productive, transformative life behind bars.
Thousands of Oklahomans have already signed petitions. Faith leaders, legal experts, and even victims have spoken out. The question now is whether the state will listen. You are able to contact the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board and the governor's office. Whether or not you support the death penalty, the facts of this case raise serious questions about justice, about fairness, about what it means to take a life in the name of the law. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to Perspectives Outside Your Own. Follow and subscribe on YouTube and Substack to support the latest updates. I'm Dion Osborne. This is In Depth with Dion.